John Deacon has not spoken publicly in more than 30 years. He has not given interviews. He has not appeared at award ceremonies or participated in documentaries, retrospectives, or the Queen plus Adam Lambert tours. When the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, John Deacon sent his regrets. When the Bohemian Rhapsody film was released in 2018, a film about the band he co-founded, the highest-grossing music biopic in history, John Deacon was not at the premiere. He has not commented on it. He has not commented on anything. He simply does not appear. And there is, in the world of people who love Queen's music, a question that has never been fully answered. Why? Not the surface answer that he is private, that the loss of Freddie Mercury was too large. These things are true and they are not the whole answer. The whole answer has to do with what John Deacon understood about what Queen was about, the specific and unrepeatable thing they had made together, and about what it meant for that thing to be gone. That understanding was shaped in the final period of Freddie Mercury's life, in the rooms of Garden Lodge in 1991, in the specific quality of the conversations that happened between two people who had known each other for 20 years, and who knew in those final months that they were having their last ones. John Deacon joined Queen in February 1971, at 19, as the fourth and final member. He was, by the accounts of everyone who played with him, the most technically complete musician in the band, the one whose contribution was least visible to an audience and most audible to anyone who understood music. His bass lines gave Queen's sound its groundedness, the melodic, structurally perfect bass playing that allowed Brian May's guitars and Freddie Mercury's vocals to do what they did. He wrote "You're My Best Friend." He wrote "Another One Bites the Dust." He wrote "I Want to Break Free," and after writing them, he went back to the back of the stage and continued to be the person nobody photographed, the one who provided the foundation that made everything else possible, and who was not seen the way the others were seen. John Deacon was private by nature and by preference. He did not want the spotlight. He wanted to play. For 20 years, that arrangement worked, and then Freddie Mercury died. The final period of Freddie Mercury's life was a period in which Queen continued to make music in the conditions that Peter Freestone and others have described. Shorter sessions, Freddie arriving at the studio when he could. John Deacon was present for this. He played the bass parts on Innuendo. He played the bass parts on Made in Heaven, the album completed after Freddie Mercury's death from recordings left behind. He was in the studio for the final sessions at Mountain Studios in Montreux in 1991. For the sessions in which Freddie Mercury came to the microphone and recorded vocals he knew would be completed after he was gone. John Deacon played the bass in those sessions. He has not spoken about what it was like to be there, but the people who were present have described the understanding in the room, the complete seriousness of it, the knowledge that what was happening would not happen again, the specific commitment Freddie Mercury brought to every take. John Deacon heard this. He understood what it meant. He was in the studio for the last sessions. He heard Freddie Mercury record vocals in 1991 in the conditions of someone who knew their timeline and had decided that working was what the timeline required. He played the bass parts. He was present for the commitment Brian May has described as extraordinary, the completeness of effort of someone who understood what the recordings were for. John Deacon heard this. He played alongside it, and 6 years later, after the tribute concert and the Made in Heaven release, and one final performance in Paris in 1997, he put down the bass guitar and did not pick it up again. He was not running away. He was keeping something. Freddie Mercury said in the period of his illness a number of things about Queen and what it required documented in the accounts of Peter Freestone, in Jim Hutton's memoir, in what Brian May and Roger Taylor have described. He was clear that what Queen was dependent on, all four of them, that the specific chemistry of the four-person band was not something that could be replicated with a different configuration. He was clear that he wanted the music to continue. He asked Brian May to write him things, bring him things, that he would sing them, that the recordings should be finished after he was gone. But he was also clear, in the way of someone who is looking at the end of something and can see it whole, that what the four of them had made together was a specific and unrepeatable thing. John Deacon, the quietest of the four, the one whose inner life is least documented because he has never offered it, heard this and understood it and acted on it. The Freddie Mercury tribute concert on the 20th of April, 1992 at Wembley was one of the last times John Deacon was fully present in public as a member of Queen. He was on stage. He played. His face, as the footage shows, carries the specific quality of someone holding something very large together with the complete effort of their will, the grief visible in the tension of controlled emotion, the playing correct and complete, and carrying in its correctness the full weight of what it cost. The tribute concert was the first large public event in which the absence at the center of Queen was visible as absence rather than as temporary pause. And John Deacon played through it, carrying what he carried, in the specific way of someone who is doing the last thing of its kind, and who knows it. The making of Made in Heaven. Brian May has described it as the hardest thing he has ever done. John Deacon participated. He played the bass parts. He contributed what the album needed. And when it was done, when the last request had been honored, John Deacon stopped. Not immediately. There was one more performance after Made in Heaven's release, a benefit concert in Paris in September 1997, the last time John Deacon played with Queen. And then he laid down the bass guitar. He has not picked it up in public since. Brian May has said the door's always open. Roger Taylor has said that John is doing what is right for John. What neither of them has said, because it is not theirs to say, is what John Deacon understood in those final sessions and in the final months at Garden Lodge, about what the specific thing they had made together required in order to remain what it was. He played the last concert in Paris in September 1997. He put down the bass guitar. He has not played in public since. Brian May has kept the door open for 27 years. John Deacon has not walked through it. And the most complete explanation available for why not the surface explanation of privacy, not the explanation of grief, is the explanation that has to do with what John Deacon understood about what Queen was, what it required, what could not be present in any subsequent version of the thing. He understood this from the inside. He understood it because he had been in the studio for the last sessions, because he had heard what Freddie Mercury was giving to the recordings in the knowledge of what they were for. He understood it, and then he kept it. The documented statements John Deacon has made about his withdrawal are very few and very precise. He has said that Queen is Freddie Mercury. He has said that without Freddie there is no Queen, not in the sense that the music cannot continue, but in the sense that the specific four-person thing required all four of its elements to be what it was. Brian May and Roger Taylor have chosen to keep the music alive, to perform it, to honor it, to give it to new audiences. John Deacon has chosen to preserve the original thing by not contributing to any subsequent version of it. His silence is not the silence of someone who has abandoned what they made. It is the silence of someone who has decided that what they made is complete, that it ended at a specific moment, and that the most honest response to that ending is to acknowledge it. The specific quality of John Deacon's absence from Queen's public life since 1997 is different from ordinary celebrity withdrawal. It is not the absence of someone who has had a falling out with the remaining members. Brian May and Roger Taylor have consistently spoken about him with warmth and respect. It is the absence of someone who has made a specific decision about what their continued participation would mean. John Deacon's presence in any subsequent Queen context, the Hall of Fame induction, the Bohemian Rhapsody premiere, the Adam Lambert tours, would have been an implicit statement that subsequent versions of Queen were continuous with the original. His absence is an implicit statement that they are not. This is not a criticism of what Brian May and Roger Taylor have built. It is a different statement about the nature of the original thing. All three of them are right from the inside of their specific experience of what the four of them made together. What John Deacon's withdrawal preserves is something specific and important: the integrity of the original recordings. When you hear Another One Bites the Dust, you are hearing John Deacon play bass with Freddie Mercury, singing not with a replacement, with Freddie Mercury. When you hear You're My Best Friend, you are hearing John Deacon play the song he wrote with Freddie Mercury singing it. The specific quality of those recordings has not been diluted by subsequent versions of John Deacon's contribution to Queen, because there are no subsequent versions. There is only the original. And the original is complete. Every note John Deacon ever recorded with Queen remains exactly what it was when it was made. John Deacon preserved this by walking away. His silence is the specific form of respect he chose to give to the thing he helped make. Every note John Deacon ever recorded with Queen remains exactly what it was, because he never added another note in a subsequent context, because he never played the same bass lines on a stage where Freddie Mercury's voice was absent. The recordings are what they are: complete, original, the specific thing that the four of them made, because John Deacon chose to keep them that way. His silence is not an absence. His silence is the specific form that his contribution to the preservation of what they made has taken. He kept his end. He is still keeping it. Brian May has spoken about John Deacon across the years with consistent warmth. He has said that John is entitled to his life, that he wants to be private, that Brian understands and respects this completely. He has said the door is always open. He has not said that John is wrong. Roger Taylor has echoed this. John is doing what is right for John. We handle loss differently. Brian and I need to keep playing. John needed to stop. What neither of them has said directly, because it is John Deacon's statement to make, is the understanding that John Deacon's withdrawal is not a rejection of Queen. It is a specific form of loyalty to Queen, the most specific form available to someone who has decided that the most honest statement they can make about the original thing is not to participate in any version of it that cannot be the original. John Deacon has, since his withdrawal, lived in London with his wife Veronica and their 6 children. Veronica knew him before the fame they met in 1971, the year he joined Queen, and married in 1975. He has, by the accounts of the very few people who have spoken about his private life, a life that is ordinary in the specific and valuable sense of the word, a domestic life, the life of someone who was at the center of one of the most extraordinary things in the history of popular music, and who has chosen, in the years since the extraordinary ended, to live ordinarily. He does not miss the spotlight because he never wanted it. What he misses, what Brian May and Roger Taylor and everyone who knew Freddie Mercury misses, is Freddie Mercury. And John Deacon's specific response to that missing has been to keep the silence that Freddie Mercury's absence created. Rather than to fill it, he chose the ordinary life. The family, the children, the London house, the 50 years of marriage to the woman who knew him before the world did. And he chose the silence, the specific silence, who understood that the thing they had been part of was complete, and that the most honest response to a completed thing is not to add to it, but to keep it. He has kept it for 30 years. He is still keeping it. And every day that Brian May's door stays open and John Deacon doesn't walk through it is another day of the same statement. What we made was complete. I am keeping it complete. This is the promise. This is how he has kept it. John Deacon has not spoken publicly in more than 30 years. He has not performed in more than 27 years. He has not explained this, because an explanation would itself be a participation in the public life he has withdrawn from. What he has done instead is keep a silence that says, more completely than any statement he could make, everything that needs to be said. The day before Freddie Mercury died, and in the weeks and months before, in the studio in Montreux and in the rooms of Garden Lodge, John Deacon was present for the end of the specific thing they had all made together. He understood what he was present for. He understood what it meant. And when it ended, he kept the end. He put down the bass guitar after Paris in September 1997. He has not picked it up since. Brian May has said the door is always open. John Deacon has not walked through it. The promise was made in the specific way that John Deacon makes everything, not with words, not with announcements, but with the complete and sustained action of someone who knows exactly what they are doing and why. The door is open. He is not walking through it. That is the promise. He has never broken it.